I love the Fire Emblem series, and one of the aspects of the franchise that I adore the most is how experimental it is. Games can be wildly different from one entry to another, since Intelligent Systems isn't afraid to take big risks, and often those risks pay off with very unique entries that can attract large crowds. For example, Awakening and Fates are very distinct from the Game Boy games thanks to their emphasis on things like pair-up and marriage, and Three Houses came up with a whole bunch of new systems, like a new class system, the gambits, the combat arts, and all sorts of mechanics revolving around the base that just would not be possible on the SNES. One of the downsides that comes with this experimentation, however, is that not every game is going to appeal to every Fire Emblem fan. For example, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Three Houses formula, it just didn't personally click with me, but I would much prefer that we keep getting radically different games, as opposed to the franchise taking the approach that Call of Duty does, where they just pump out the same garbage year after year, and all of the games feel interchangeable. The reason I bring this up, however, is that because the games are so often wildly different from each other, it can lead to heightened emotions from fans when the latest entry just doesn't click with them. If you fell in love with the franchise because of Fire Emblem 4, then Thracia throwing out all of the mechanics Genealogy had is probably gonna rub you the wrong way. And in the age of the internet, if a video game makes you mad, there's only one thing you can do. Leave a negative review on Metacritic. That'll fucking show them. So that's what today's video is. I thought it would be funny to just read the negative reviews for all of the recent Fire Emblems. I'm just going to be doing the 3DS and Switch emblems because anything earlier than that doesn't have that many Metacritic reviews and as a result doesn't have that many negative ones. But hopefully we'll still have our fair share of funny content. And I'm going to start with the least controversial game, Fire Emblem Three Houses. If you prefer this shit to Fire Emblem Engage, you probably shouldn't be allowed to have opinions on anything. I'd hate to see who you vote for, to be honest. What the fuck? I'm sorry. I wanted to do the like evil voice, the angry evil voice, but this is just so stupid. I couldn't keep it straight the whole time. I'd hate to see who you vote for, TBH. So, like, obviously this person is angry at the internet collectively deciding that they hate Fire Emblem Engage, that, it's a similar thing that happened when Fates came out, like, new equals bad. Not to say you're not allowed to dislike Engage. I have my issues with Engage, just like I have my issues with Three Houses, but I do think that there was like a collective dead horse beating, I guess. That and the exaggeration. Like, people acted like the story fucking killed their family just because it was less well written than Three Houses, shall we say, without fucking digging into it. But this feels like the backlash to the backlash, like the anti-Engage hate. She still gave it a 4 out of 10, so like, it could be worse, but if you prefer this shit to Fire Emblem Engage, you shouldn't be allowed to have opinions. Fucking wow. We're off to a strong start. And I hate to see what you vote for supposed to be. Is that because of the like Edelgard fascist thing? Is this a fucking like, oh, if you like Three Houses, you must like Edelgard and you must be fascist? Because that IGN article about like how Edelgard's fascist, or is it like, I mean, like, look, the Three Houses, like, I think all three political lords, shocker for a game set in medieval times, none of them are what would be considered progressive in a modern country. Because as it turns out, they're all doing monarchy, and most of us would say, you know, democracy's better than monarchy. And that's not me trying to fucking woke cancel Three Houses. Like, it's set in the medieval ages. It makes sense that they would have, like, an emperor, a monarch. I guess Claude technically isn't a monarchy, but, like, he's the head of the merchant state. Like, it feels analogous to it, right? Analogous to, like, a king position. But also it makes sense they would do that. But the fucking, like, I'd hate to see who you would vote for. Like, why are we applying, not to, I mean, obviously if a game is racist, right, then we should be like, hey, this is racist. But why are we applying, like, modern politics parties to the fucking, I don't know. I'd hate to see who you vote for. You know what, Lucy? I'd hate to see who you vote for. I love tactical games, but in this one, the most important will be building your team and being lucky, crits and misses. I loved it at the beginning, but then I realized I only needed to spend more time to build my team, or I would have to rely on luck. This is not what I expect when I'm playing a tactical game. I guess there's... I guess their criticism is, like, a lot of the... I disagree with the idea that all you have to do is build your team. I do think a big part of, especially on Maddening mode, Three Houses meta is, like, getting your builds online. But, like, that's stuff you do on and off the battlefield. Like, you still do on the battlefield stuff in order to build up ranks. And... oh god, no, on Maddening, it's not even just your builds, though, right? Like, positioning is important for linked attacks, for the boosting of accuracy. Combat arts is very important. I think combat arts add a lot of tactical class. This is a 2023 review as well, so Maddening was out. I mean, if you want something that pushes your tactics more, Maddening mode does do that. I think it does it in a way that is a little bit too extreme. I wish there was an in-between of hard and Maddening. The crits and misses thing, I think, is also just because a lot of SRPGs just don't have accuracy and critical, especially don't have critical hits. So I can understand, like, if you're not, like, super into that. But there is usually luck involved. I think that sort of helps spice things up. I get wanting to, like, fully remove luck, but there usually is some amount of luck involved. Even something like Advance Wars, like, has damage rolls, right? So there's usually an element of luck, and I wouldn't say that Three Houses has, like, too much luck. I guess, again, Maddening, accuracy, but then use the accuracy boosting skills, like Archer, like linked attacks. Maybe they just don't know about linked attacks. I do think that this complaint, like, maybe they're just looking for something other than Fire Emblem. Can you remove the boring academy system? It doesn't look like this game doesn't have a good enough story. It looks like this game doesn't have a good enough story and enough game contents to hold the player's time, so you have to use the boring academy system. Doesn't have a good enough story. I mean, I am not a fan of the Three Houses story, but I'm surprised to see the criticism of Three Houses not having a good enough story as, like, the main point. Well, that and the academy. Like, I wonder what this person thinks of... I wonder what this person thinks of any other Fire Emblem. Because, like, I'd say, while I think Fire Emblem Three Houses has, like, significant story issues, it's still probably on the upper end of Fire Emblem stories, and that's damning with faint praise, because Fire Emblem is not, like, mainline Fire Emblem is not good with stories. Obviously, ROM hacks tend to be very, very good. But, like, what does this person think about Radiant Dawn, right? Just the ass-pull Deus Ex Machina? Or a game, even a game like FE1 or FE3 that just, like, doesn't have an emphasis on story. I don't know, they probably haven't played the older ones. A very good, very solid turn-based strategy games suffers from hot anime mess of a plot line. Wait, everyone's shitting on the Three Houses' story. Have I found my people? Have I found the... Like, I guess because this is the larger gaming ecosystem, it kind of goes to show, if you're not, like, fully bogged down in the Fire Emblem community, where I think a lot of that praise for Three Houses story comes from people who are comparing it to other Fire Emblem stories, even just compared to other video game stories. Maybe that's why there's so much, like, negative when the wider community takes a look at its story, right? It gets bogged down by endless exposition. There's no surprises after the halfway point. Only a couple of fun maps with unique mechanics like warp points. Warp points. That's not the halfway point. That's the Death Knight. The Flame Gets Kidnapped Death Knight map is the warp points. Is there another game with warp points? I don't think there is. The idea of playing through the game twice doesn't really appeal. In hindsight, I wish I had the game had fewer playthroughs for a single kick-ass story consolidated. I agree with that. I think that needing to do multiple playthroughs, like the route split thing, if you're not gonna meaningfully differentiate the routes, which they really don't, I think don't do a route split. Like Fates did it right, basically just selling 3 separate games built in the same engine. What the fuck? This one's so long. I don't think I can fit this whole one on screen. I kind of want to read it out in like an edgy voice though. You get to look at the top part for this. Let me just played through the entire game. It's a shame that this game decides to give you 1/5 shit in 50 plus hours playthrough. Such a tedious, repetitive, frustrating waste of time. It is impossible to enjoy the game because every time something interesting happens, it'll always be like, well, maybe explain this in a future playthrough or paid DLC. The result is an empty, soulless experience where it's impossible to be emotionally invested in anything. During your first playthrough, you'll have no idea of what is going on. It's hard to put into words just how poorly the story is presented. 95% of your dialogue options go, I'm person X from place Y. A, person X. B, place Y. NPC answer, the same no matter what you pick. There may be 2 choices that actually matter, although they will seem huge, and yet turn out to be completely meaningless. Will you be my ally or my enemy? A, ally. B, enemy. NPC answer, okay, we will be enemies regardless of what you pick. The player has no control over any interaction. Halfway through, you'll be asked to pick a side in a war where nobody explains why they are fighting or tries to convince you in any way. You have 0 context for this decision. This is why the biggest choice in the game. Even after finishing the game, I don't understand why we were fighting. I guess I can play through 5 more times to find out. The relationship building system is also terrible. Characters will bond and trigger cutscenes. Half of them will be fights where the characters clearly hate each other, so it's weird to call it bonding, but okay. Characters have 1 personality trait, and all interactions revolve around that. The last cutscene will largely be the characters asking other characters to consider marrying them. One character will propose to 4 or 5 different people. It's so weird. At the end, you will get a text box telling you that certain characters got married, which seems entirely random and no one really knows the formula. All my paired endings were between people I consider incompatible. The player's own marriage is awkward and sterile. And of course, lots of characters will seem to be in love with you before the last battle, because there is only one path for each relationship, and all paths can end in marriage. There aren't many. 3 to 4 short conversations with each character. This was my first Fire Emblem game, and yeah, I hate it. I don't understand what people find appealing about this mess. The music is terrible, the player character aesthetic, ugh. The empty coat sleeves flailing about, the fishnets with holes, the open fly, the floating collar, the green hair. It's everything that's been wrong with JRPGs. No customization. Silent cardboard protagonist, grindy, bizarre color and style choices. Tries to draw inspiration from medieval Europe, but ends up just making everything weird. You know what? Actually, until the end, I agreed with basically everything this person said. I felt bad halfway through that I was giving them the edgelord voice. I'm sorry, Tangled Wings. You don't deserve the edgelord voice. You had basically just correct takes. I judged you too harshly. You did give it a 4 out of 10. That's fair. I mean, like, I'd probably rate it higher. I don't like giving numbers. But if I had to give 3 Houses a number, I'd give it like 6 out of 10 probably. Like, I think it's an above average experience. I just find it hard to go back to. But yeah, like, everything you said is fucking on point. I really liked the whole, like, the story feels like it's got a bunch of holes in it that are going to be solved by future playthroughs, but then playing through all the routes doesn't actually shine a light on anything. That was my first, like, I played Silver Snow first, and it felt like the story was hinting at mysteries that the story never solved, and I was like, oh, this must be solved, like Dimitri's ghost shows up, and I was really excited. I actually played Blue Lions immediately after Silver Snow, because I was like, I want to find out what the deal was with Dimitri's ghost, and like Dedue showing up in the castle when everyone is dead. Like, I want to find out how that happened, and then it just didn't. It didn't show me that perspective. And Silver Snow was the first one they worked on, too, so it's like, how did this end up happening? You know what? I actually agree with this 4 out of 10 review. Aside from, I don't like the music and I don't like the characters and that sort of stuff, like, those I disagree with. I think the music is awesome. I like the combat. Like, I'll tell you why I play the game. It's not the story, it's the combat, right? And I like most of the character designs in Three Houses, although it sounded like the fishnets and the coat sleeves, that's like female Byleth design. I do think female Byleth's outfit is ugly. I think it's ugly. I don't like it. Especially like they said, the coat sleeves and the fishnets. I don't like it. Yeah, no, I agree. You're base, Tangled Wings. No gameplay, no ergonomic, no artistic direction. Grindy waste of time. Play the GBA titles. Oh, we fucking found it. Oh, play the GBA titles. I was waiting for that. I'll tell you, there's 3 things I'm waiting for going in. Play the GBA titles. Play Three Houses, which obviously, you know, we're in Three Houses. It wouldn't be that. And somebody crashing out because they missed a 90. Somebody crashing out and giving the game a 0 because they missed a 90. So my bingo card is those 3 titles just repeated over and over again. Play the GBA titles, which, like, to be, it's fine if you like the Game Boy titles, right? If you think they're the peak Fire Emblem, if they're your favorite, perfectly fine. However, prior to Engage coming out and Three Houses being the game that people used to beat Engage's corpse, during the 3DS and Three Houses era, the Game Boy titles were what people used to beat those corpse of that. Ugh, I'm so sick of skills. Play Game Boy Advance. It doesn't have the skills. Which, again, it's fine if you don't like the skills, but the whole, like, much like, maybe I'm being the Engage fan from earlier, but it gets so old, the years and years and years of, like, no, new Fire Emblem is bad. The only good Fire Emblem is the Game Boy era. It was so, people even said it about, like, the Tellius games, which is funny because the Tellius games are, like, mechanically just such a direct continuation of Game Boy Advance. Like, GBA had very slow iterations, as opposed to usually Fire Emblem very much changes up the formula. GBA, like, has a slow evolution, right? And there's a good reason for that. FE7 was the first international release. They wanted to keep it very basic. And then FE8 and 9 were developed alongside each other. And so a lot of the evolutions from 7, like, rather than being able to build on each other, they're separate. And so FE9 couldn't, like, build off of 8. So it feels a lot slower of an evolution than it would if they, like, you know, weren't designed alongside each other or stuff. So it's not necessarily, like, a criticism, but it is interesting that they sort of use GBA, like, as the catch-all, hitting even the GameCube games, which is, like, kind of just GBA plus. Like, there's some differences, but it's still rescue dropping, right? Still the rescue drop system. Yeah. I like the Fire Emblem franchise, so I decided to give this one a try out of sheer COVID boredom. If you do not like anime aesthetics or tropes when it comes to storytelling or characters, give this one a pass. I understand they're going for the Harry Potter thing with Three Houses and all. The Harry Potter thing? Does this person think that, like, Harry Potter invented boarding schools? Like, school culture is a big deal in Japan. They're not going for Harry Potter stuff. They're very clearly going off of Japan's, like, their high school equivalent program. What is it, secondary school? Like, that's why all the characters are in, like, school uniforms and stuff, too. It's not Harry Potter. Harry Potter didn't invent boarding schools. What are you talking about? Characters are stereotypical and predictable. You have awkward, shy emo girl, quarantines, even though there's no pandemic. You are dating your review, Prometheus. Too many COVID references. You ought to know not to do it. It's gonna date it. It's gonna date it. No COVID in the Three Houses. Can you imagine? There's Bernadetta social distancing because of COVID. The male characters are all just the Japanese ideal of being very thin and effeminate, which is jarring as a Westerner. Yeah, I hate this person. Prometheus, I think I fucking hate you. If you are Gen Z and/or a weeb, you will love this game. Okay, now I know I hate you. What is this shit? Otherwise, you will hate it like I do. Can we put that on the back of the box? 3 houses. Gen Z weeb trash. It's sad because the standard Fire Emblem tactical gameplay is fine. Then why'd you give it a 0 out of 10? What? The tactical gameplay is fine, if only you don't have to deal with the chore of dating/visual novel shit. You don't have to, though. Yeah, I skipped the monastery in my first playthrough. Like, after its appeal ran out after the first couple of chapters, I just skipped the monastery. You don't have to do the dating sim stuff, Prometheus. John Carmack said it best. Video games need story as much as a porn movie does? What? Video games need story as much as a porn movie does? What? I don't know how to react to that. I need a break. Hold on, I need a break. Okay, I've composed myself. Let's see what's next. By far the worst in the franchise. Zero thought went to putting the fights together. The review you see right above is bought and paid for. This game is water trash. Username made this to warn. They made this account to warn you that the positive reviews are bought and paid for. The best thing is they say the review you see right above is bought and paid for, but the review above them was Prometheus talking about porn. Prometheus a paid shill confirmed. Oh my god, I really thought I was ready. I thought I was ready! I thought I was ready!
One eternity later.
Don't give the time control mechanic a use limit if you're going to make the RNG this unfair to the player. Yo, we have an RNG crash out. Well, I mean, it's like with 2 lines. It can't necessarily be a crash out, but we have blaming the RNG for your own tactical mistakes. Anyone who played this game and liked it played on easy mode. You, sir, have the biggest gamer dick. Not only are you incapable of doing anything wrong and any mistakes are just bad RNG, but anyone who disagrees with you played on easy mode. Congratulations, Trivium Lover 69, on your gigantic gamer penis. You have the biggest gamer dick and I'm proud of you. Everyone else played on easy mode. There's actually no streamed series of 3 houses on any difficulty other than easy mode. I'm sure they mean normal by easy, like I'm not gonna stick on that or whatever, but god, the RNG, fucking, I don't know, make use of tactics to help your reliability, like better hit rates and linked attacks and all that shit. This is not real Fire Emblem. It is some Harry Potter style school nonsense. Bring back Path of Radiance era Fire Emblem. What is with the fucking Harry Potter comparisons? Do people genuinely think Harry Potter invented boarding schools? Like, fuck. I went to a boarding school. I'm not Harry Potter style. I can't be in Harry Potter. I'm trans. We're banned from the Harry Potters. Also, shoutouts to, this is not real Fire Emblem. Do you think Genealogy and Gaiden are also not real Fire Emblem? I don't know. I hate the whole, this isn't real Fire Emblem nonsense. Just because a particular title doesn't appeal to you personally doesn't mean it's not real Fire Emblem. The series is continuously experimenting. Every Fire Emblem is different. They're all real Fire Emblem. I had returned the game once I found out it copy and pasted Persona 5. The studio essentially took what Harry Potter! What the fuck is with all the Harry Potter? They took a lot of traits from Cold Steel 1 and 2, be saving my money for an original and innovative game like The Outer Worlds. Devs like Obsidian know that focus on making new games instead of ripping off other less known games. The Outer Worlds' sales pitch is literally it's Fallout New Vegas in outer space. What the fuck do you mean, original game? And to be clear, like, I think that's fine. I think if your sales pitch is like, we want to do this, but we're putting our own twist on it, like, this combines the social aspects of Persona. Although, honestly, I also think... People say, like, oh, it's Persona Emblem, right? Because it combines Harry Potter, or not, now I'm saying Harry Potter. It combines Fire Emblem and Persona, right? But the social elements in Three Houses are really light and super optional. Like, getting your Confidant chains in Persona 5, which is the only Persona I've played, and I haven't played any SMT, so I can only go off of P5, but that's what this person said, a copy and paste of Persona 5. So, like, it's an apt comparison, Persona 5. The Confidant chains are actually very important. You don't have to do, like, I mean, you have to, there's supports are helpful, but supports have been in the franchise since Fire Emblem 6. I mean, earlier if you count static supports, but building supports has been in, like, in GBA, that's the quote-unquote real Fire Emblem, right? Like, that's where building support started from. Tea parties, what, you get +4 charm? That's unnecessary. Lost items to help build supports, you don't need to do that. There's the tutoring and stuff, but that's not Persona. Like, that's its own system. The tutoring with motivation and meals and all that stuff, like tutoring and studying goals and all that, it's a brand new system. Or at the very least, it's something that I've not seen before, and it's definitely not in Persona 5. Like, the way that building combat in Persona 5 works is much closer to Pokemon, where you capture monsters, but then you, like, mash them together. Like, you execute them to make new ones and upgrade them and stuff. Yeah, just that I get why. Like, I made the comparison Persona Emblem before, because you do have, like, the hub you can walk around and you can talk to people and do some of the social stuff, but it's not only super unnecessary, but the rewards for it are pretty minimal, too. Like, aside from if you're spamming fishing to build professor rank so you can, like, do more meals, like, you get extra motivation for tutoring, and that's basically it. Like, you build support points, you get a little bit, like, was it 1 point of charm for tea parties? I think I said 4, but I think it's 1. People who know, like, all the specifics, what are the big rewards for doing the quote-unquote Persona Emblem? Gardening and rigging stat boosters doesn't count, because that's, like, takes 2 seconds and also RNG. Right? And it's also not even a social thing. Like, you just plant a garden. It's Harvest Moon. It's Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon Emblem. This game is censored in all caps. Nintendo themselves acts like the Chinese government, and they are no different than communists. Three Houses is communist censorship! They must learn that the game is suitable for Japan. It's fine for us. What were the changes in Three Houses? In the localization? Like, I know in Fates, people got upset because the face-pitting minigame was removed and, like, the Soleil supports got altered. And they did the Pokemon anime thing where Onigiri was changed to, like, pickles, right? Hisame likes pickles now, whereas previously he liked, I think it wasn't onigiri, it was another Japanese food. Comment below if you remember what the censorship, the communist Chinese censorship was for Fates. And then in Engage, it was about the Bond Ring Anna stuff, which was a lie, by the way. The whole thing, the narrative was that in Japan, you could marry Anna, but it got changed to not be a romantic bond ring in international. And that was just a lie. It was just a xenophobic lie, like about the stereotype about like Japanese people being pedophiles, right? Because of lolly stuff. So Westerners got mad that they, like, so many pedophiles just told on themselves for wanting to marry Anna that they just, like, wholesale invented. And then blamed on Japan. But what was the Three Houses censorship? Like, genuinely, I don't remember this controversy at all. But they're very mad. This person is very mad about the communist censorship. Is something, i.e. a reference, is unclear. We can look. Is that what it is? Did, like, a metaphor get changed to a different metaphor? Oh my god. People do not understand how fucking translation works. If a metaphor doesn't cross cultural lines, you don't translate the metaphor word for word. You find a metaphor that works in the culture you're translating for. That's not censorship. That's what fucking translation is. Google Translate, like machine translation, is not, like, that's not localization, right? Oh my god, this fucking guy. Voyeurix, you're on my fucking radar now. What really is there to say? As a classic Fire Emblem fan, and one who appreciates some of the newer games like Awakening, this game isn't Fire Emblem. I get that it's mainstream's way to make people's first Fire Emblem, and it's okay if you like it, but this isn't Fire Emblem. It should have been a Persona spin-off. People get so hung up on the social systems. They are really not heavily involved in the game at all. They are so ignorable, even on Maniac mode. And the tutoring, like, the tutoring is not ignorable on Maniac mode, but the tutoring takes 5 seconds, and also, like, that's not a Persona thing, that's not a social system thing. It's not real Fire Emblem because you can go to, there's the optional tea parties. This is probably the same sort of person who got mad that the face petting got removed from Fates. Like, people had a fucking riot when face petting got removed, and yet now it's Persona. It's not real Fire Emblem if you include tea parties. If they wanted to make a Persona game, they should have asked Atlus to do it, because Atlus does it better. I don't think they wanted to make a Persona game. Like, that's why this isn't a good Persona game, because it's not. We get mundane and boring social mechanics that are integral to story progression. No, they're not! They are literally not integral to story progression! Unless you want to say that the C support Edelgard is a mundane social thing, but if you're a classic Fire Emblem fan, again, supports originated in the Binding Blade, like in the building supports. Obviously, supports originated in FE3. Well, Gaiden, technically, but it's different. But the building supports, I'm gonna keep saying Binding Blade, because if you're talking about, like, building supports between multiple characters, that is from classic Fire Emblem. I hate to say it, GBA is old school now, like, we're all old. And they removed the weapon triangle, something that gives Fire Emblem its identity. The fuck? Why are people so attached to the weapon triangle? I've been meaning to, like, I guess maybe I would make an Ice Rider out of it. I don't think it's worth, like, a whole main video, but I've noticed, like, a weird attachment to the weapon triangle. Why? Like, I think the weapon triangle is incredibly mundane. It's like a game of rock, paper, scissors, except for you always know what move your opponent's making and can prepare accordingly. If the only, like, I get it kind of makes, like, swords, axes, and lances stand out from each other, but I don't think it really succeeds in that regard. If the only thing that differentiates your weapons from each other is the triangle, I think you did a bad job. Like, this person's comparing it to the type chart from Pokemon. Type chart from Pokemon is like a complex and interweaving set of offensive and defensive relationships between 18 different types. And they give you stab stuff, and each type feels like it has its own identity. Like, Psychic does a lot of special damage, Steel doesn't have any good, like, attacks. It has some, like, mediocre physical ones, but it's really more defensive than anything. Ice is the glass cannon, that, like, it can't resist anything, but it attacks a bunch of stuff. Grass has a bunch of utility moves. Fairy has a bunch of utility moves. Poison is more around the status than anything. It's sort of a defensive type, too. Like, comparing the weapon triangle to that, what is the identity of axes? Being better than lances and weaker than swords? I just don't agree. I just don't agree that the weapon triangle, like, matters at all. I hope that in future Fire Emblems, they experiment with, like, making the weapons feel distinct and not with the weapon triangle. I mean, Fortune's Weave trailer, the whole, like, lances being effective against horses thing, I think is sort of an indication of that aspect of things. But yeah, no, can't say I agree with you about any of this. Three Houses is a real Fire Emblem game. You're just gatekeeping. Three Houses has a lot of problems. The monastery sections get boring after a few chapters. Some routes aren't finished. The gameplay isn't as good as other games like Engage or Fate's Conquest, but I don't really care because I can make Ash a Great Knight, and I think that's funny. You still gave 0 stars, but I'm assuming this 0 out of 10 is, like, a misclick? Or you're just saying, like, you think it's an awful game even though you can make Ash a Great Knight. Honestly, I agree with your criticisms, Guy Who Hats. Guy Who Hats, you're good in my book. You keep on hatting. I wouldn't have given it 0 out of 10 for this, but, you know, it's still... I agree with everything you said. The worst Fire Emblem that exists, and I don't shy away from saying it. The graphics are terrible for the console they came out on. Story is one of the worst in the entire series. The game has been sullied with mechanics that have nothing to do with the general essence of FE. A total shame. I mean, I think the game looks ugly, too. I don't like the graphics. But I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily have it in me to care this much about, like, the game having a mediocre story. It's Fire Emblem, right? Like, all the games are mediocre stories. And mechanics that have nothing to do with the essence of Fire Emblem. I'd just be repeating the same points I'd be saying at this point. Highly overrated, introduce the Persona systems. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be most of the criticisms are just Persona or Harry Potter. Yeah, so I think we've probably milked the Three Houses well dry. And maybe let's move on to that game's rival, Engage, and see what people hate about Engage. This is one of the worst games, not just within the Fire Emblem series, but in the realm of video games. Intelligent Systems has successfully destroyed their legacy. Quick fun tactics / epic storytelling / interesting and relatable character designs, and turned it into a bland, boring, uninspiring, irritating game that even an indie game on Steam would intrigue me more. You see what I mean about people not liking Engage personally and turning it into the biggest catastrophe that's ever befallen mankind? This is one of the worst games in the realm of video games overall. Like, I get it. You don't like the lighthearted, campy, more like, you know, magical girl anime style thing. You'd prefer the boarding school anime that's in Three Houses. But give me a fucking break with the catastrophizing. They destroyed their legacy because they decided to make the anniversary game a fun celebration instead of a gritty, dark Thracia remaster. I can't stand this version. The characters are immature and the war feels more like a playground for women and kids than a real battlefield. Again, as opposed to the actual child soldiers we have in Three Houses. Their username is just a string of numbers too, so I suspect this person made a Metacritic account because they were that upset at Fire Emblem Engage. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, like, I don't like Engage's story either, but geez Louise, some people. I hate the design, parentheses, I love... You gotta get in that you loved Three Houses early. You have to make sure people know you hate Engage and love Three Houses. The cutscenes are disconnected. One cutscene shows a character standing and talking. A second later, a character Cutscene of the main character is standing in a different location talking to someone. It's like characters teleport. It's very annoying and confusing what's actually happening. The cutscenes are boring, they're mostly just exchanging nice words, and the storytelling is bad in general. I will say nothing about the gameplay, as the story alone made me not want to continue. Such a shame. I loved Three Houses. I expected a weaker story, but this is just bad. Again, like, we're just blowing... I get that you don't like the story. I personally also think the story is, like, it ranges from fine to bad, right? It never gets beyond passable. But, like, holy guacamole, you can't even talk about the gameplay because the story was so bad that you can't even talk about the gameplay. Like, it feels like you're just trying to avoid saying anything positive. I suspect that this person feels positively about the gameplay but doesn't wish to admit it, because otherwise why are you avoiding talking about the gameplay in your negative review? You could even say, like, you know, the gameplay was good, but I hated the story, so, like, I don't know. Also, like, I agree with the criticism about the cutscenes seeming, like, jilted and mostly just people standing around talking. And how there's not really a flow to them, right? Because they're all in-engine, just talky circles. That's literally the Three Houses cutscene criticism, though. Like, that's the issue with Three Houses cutscenes, too, is it's just the student circle. Everyone says their trait. There's even the really embarrassing thing where it's, like, a 2D background with 3D models, and then they're like, I need to show you a book. Let's show a PNG of a book, like, in a box. Like, that's the Three Houses cutscene problem. Hey, look at this! Shows a PNG of a fucking, gem or something, or a PNG of a sword. Like, you can't... This person is inviting that comparison by saying, like, I hate this, but I love Three Houses, and then all of the criticisms they give also apply to Three Houses. It just feels... I don't know, very, it's just the popular thing to do, right? Three Houses good, Engage bad. Can't romance Rosato. Unplayable garbage. It's an absolute waste of money and hard drive space. This person, I'm assuming this is a joke review. Can't romance Rosato, 0 stars. Rosato's awesome, though. I don't really play Fire Emblem for the romance angle, but hey, Rosato's awesome. Epic Bacon 1995. I am expecting a very epic bacon review. I got this game for £15 and still feel ripped off. Bring back the Shadows of Valentia artist. Oh god. Matilda CG. Three Houses writing team. This is an embarrassment to the Fire Emblem series. Gameplay is uninteresting and gimmicky, relying on you to recognize old characters to care about the title. Seriously, the lows this game sinks to, lows I hadn't thought possible. I'm not surprised it's so widely reviled amongst the Fire Emblem fan base. I mean, I don't know. I think the anniversary game that's trying to reference Fire Emblem Past is, of course, going to show you characters you have a connection to and familiarity with. If you go in expecting completely original, no references or anything, then you're going to be disappointed. But, like, hey, Three Houses has the white hair and ball and Dagda and stuff. Awakening has a bunch of references to past Fire Emblem games. Like, the series is constantly looking back on itself. Now, Engage does that far more than any other because it has the Emblem Rings, and all the Emblem Ring powers are references to the games that they're from. But it's not like that's a unique thing to Engage. It's just more emphasized in Engage, and the reason that it is more emphasized is this is an anniversary game celebrating the history of this great series. I also think that, so there's sort of a narrative around, like, oh, you know, they couldn't be bothered coming up with an original story. The emblems are, like, it's a FE Heroes style thing where, you know, they overshadow the OCs, and I just don't understand that either. They're in, like, they have, like, no dialogue, right? They're almost purely gameplay. They're in, like, 3 cutscenes, and granted, those cutscenes aren't great. Like, you are the emblem, the Fire Emblem, rolls eyes, but I don't know, the idea of, you need to recognize the old characters to care about this just feels like a stretch. Overwhelmingly unbalanced. The plot is neat, but most of the good stuff is locked behind battles that feel like total slogs without grinding, and the game de-incentivizes grinding pretty hard. I find myself going through all my rewinds to get any progress done at a certain point, and I have to redo everything because a generic roll to hit on a 20% chance, there we go, RNG, we're blaming RNG again, does way more damage than it should at that point of the game. I'm not playing on Maddening. Why am I getting an experience that is on par with that? I do think that, especially on a first playthrough, hard does feel like noticeably harder than some of the other game's hard modes. Like hard or normal, because it's the middle difficulty, right? Like it's noticeably harder than like Radiant Dawn normal or Three Houses hard, right? But part of it I think is just adjusting to the mechanics. And also, like, an enemy hit a 20%. It sucks. Like, that is unfortunate. But also, you can't get mad. Like, there was a 1 in 5 chance for that to happen. I do think a big, like, skill level up when it comes to Fire Emblem play is to not put your units in, like, a death chance like that if you can avoid it. Especially if it's just 120% that they'll die for. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting that this person is saying that they like the plot but dislike the gameplay. I guess it takes all sorts, right? I feel the opposite, but they're not like wrong. Just for I mean, I do think it's wrong to get mad that you got hit by the 20%. And as far as the difficulty thing is going, I don't think that the game needs grinding. I don't think it's a slog without grinding. In fact, I think grinding makes it into a slog. I would recommend, like, if you're having a hard time on hard, there's no shame in turning it down to normal or turning casual mode on. Like, those are valid ways to play the game. I personally don't like playing them that way. But if you are upset at the difficulty, like, and I don't say this as like a get good skill issue type thing, like, legitimately, if you're not having fun, I mean, if you're not having fun and don't think turning it down would change that, then by all means quit. But if you're not having fun with a game, and it's because it's too hard, and you're playing on a difficulty that is not the lowest difficulty, consider turning it down. There's nothing wrong with that. This is why Fire Emblem fanbase isn't respected. The games are to sell waifu JPEGs, not passion projects, not art. Waifu culture strikes again. I just don't even know what to say that. I do think that, like, you know, the catering to waifu stuff is obviously a thing, but it kind of has always been a thing. It feels like it's a talking point that's leveraged against modern Fire Emblem, but there's, like, a subreddit dedicated to Mia's armpits, right? Like, Lynn was one of the more popular characters in Fire Emblem 7, and it's because she's the girl one, right? People have always been obsessing with the waifu stuff. Fire Emblem 7 opens with Lynn nursing you back to health. You, the player, back to health. Like, it's doing the fan service appeal stuff. It was always there. It's more obvious, but I wouldn't say that that's because it's new. I would say the increased, like, system fidelity, graphical fidelity allows for options that would not have been possible on the Game Boy Advance. Like, the Tea Party POV stuff wouldn't really work in the GBA on the same cartridge as a full SRPG, right? Like, obviously, there is dating sims that fit on the GBA, but they don't have Fire Emblem attached to them. Like, disk space is a concern there. And just getting everything to interact with each other. They went in the wrong direction compared to Three Houses, a perfect Fire Emblem game. We just have to keep bringing up Three Houses. Story. I played all the 3DS and Three Houses games. Ooh, maybe we'll see more of your reviews. The story and romance are what keep the game engaging. Here they threw that away. This is a disappointment. Design. The character design is a step down. Seriously, you look at all the characters, they're goofy and childlike and too colorful. Not suitable for battle or to have the charm of the previous games. Gameplay. Ring power is an unnecessary gimmick. I agree that rings are a gimmick. I don't think they're unnecessary. I think they're what makes Engage's combat system so interesting. Like, there's a lot of depth to it because of the stuff like the ring powers. It is definitely a gimmick, but it's a gimmick in the same way that, like, you know, I mean, the upcoming Blaze Arts is probably going to be a gimmick. Battalions and Gambits are a gimmick. Dragon Veins are a gimmick, and they add complexity to the games. And I think adding complexity, like, if what you're looking for is a more simplistic experience, by all means, play the GBA emblems. They have a lot less depth to them. And I don't even say that as, like, a judgmental thing. Like, there is a certain joy in a very simple combat system, simple to master, and just applying that to the maps. But I think in the case of the more modern games, the direction that IS is going is to add more depth and sort of expand that way. And it allows them to give, like, higher stated enemies that then you have to make use of these complicated tools to get rid of. And I think I personally really like that approach. This is a resurgence of the worst Fire Emblem has to offer. They forgot everything they did right in Three Houses. The prior entry to Fire Emblem Three Houses was Fire Emblem Fates, which was slammed for being unoriginal with a terrible story, characters, and shoehorn mechanics from better games before it. Fire Emblem Engage was written by the same guy. Oh, was it? I didn't know that. It shows. The only difference is instead of cramming in mechanics from prior games, they just cut them out entirely. This is an anniversary game, so nobody thought it would be good, but charging full price is predatory. Want a good Fire Emblem experience? Play Three Houses. Want more? Play 9 and 10. The GBA games and Awakening. Only play these games if you're hooked on anime and strategy RPGs, so you can forgive terrible story, characters, and gameplay events. Then play every other game in the genre before you buy this one at a generous sales price. Even if this game ran perfectly on the Switch, it doesn't. I'd still be mad at Nintendo for betraying their fans. Don't give them their money or they'll think this is okay. What mechanics got cut out of Fire Emblem Engage? Like, unless you mean Three Houses is like tutoring system, which didn't return, but like that's the gimmick of Three Houses, right? Like the super customization, tutoring, spell list, combat arts, and that sort of stuff. Like, that got cut out. But what got cut out that didn't make it back into Engage? Because I would say that the whole school stuff, like, that doesn't work in the setting that Engage has. And I also just don't think it was designed to be an evergreen mechanic, right? That was its own thing. In the same way that Fire Emblem 4 is like multiple castles and its trading system, its arena system, like none of that was meant to be evergreen, and it wasn't. I mean, most Thracia mechanics were not meant to be evergreen. The only one that really made a return was rescue dropping, and even that, like, that wasn't evergreen. It was just, it defined the GBA era, and it was in Tellius as well. So, like, it stayed longer than most Fire Emblem mechanics, but, like, Weapon Triangle came back. Like, if you want to complain about a game dropping quote-unquote core mechanics, Three Houses dropped the triangle. People get mad about that, apparently. They brought it back and they made it break. What the fuck mechanics did they drop out? I'm genuinely just confused by this. I feel like this is just, I want to be mad at Engage, so I'm just saying stuff. Durability? Maybe? But, like, durability wasn't in Fates. Durability wasn't in Echoes or Gaiden. So, like, durability, I would say, is, like, a common feature. It's sort of like a main feature, but I also don't think it needs to be in every game, similar to Weapon Triangle, right? I just don't know. Is it because they dropped monsters? Like, the monsters were very unique to the Fodland setting, the Crest Beasts and shit. I think it's fine not to bring them back. And they didn't even, like, fully drop monsters. Like, Corrupted Worms exist. I don't like Corrupted Worms, but they do exist. They function differently from the monsters, but, like, yeah, I don't know. If you're in the audience, Scarred Switch, sorry, oh, you're Scarred Switch. What the fuck mechanics did they drop? Please tell me. What are the predatory practices that they dropped mechanics of? This game is a weak attempt at expanding the reach of Fire Emblem to a new audience, because by its premise, it's supposed to be an anniversary to celebrate the series, which implies which is only important to longtime fans. Well, clearly it wasn't trying to expand to new fans then. It's celebrating the loyal fans. It's meant for people who are entrenched. It manages to alienate new and longtime fans, barely putting effort into its dialogue, story, or characters, half-assing them to pull in quick cash. The story is a complete mess, falls over itself to give an artificial goal to the players through the deaths of 2 characters without ever bothering to explore these characters rather than plot devices. I agree, but that you are also describing every Fire Emblem. I think that Lumera, her name's not Lumera, they copied Lumera. No, her name is Lumera, they copied Makoto. But yeah, I think Lumera's death is super weak, and like they're clearly trying to make us feel something for her. But you could say the same thing. I mean, I did say the same thing about Makoto. I would say the same thing about Emerin too. She's in the story longer than Lumera, but she's not really a huge presence. Grail actually made me feel things, but it was also my first Fire Emblem, and I was like 12, so I was like, Ike's dad died. It's like my dad died. But like Hector and Eliwood in 6, obviously if you've played 7, Hector dying in 6 is like a very big deal. But if you haven't played 7, Hector is not present in the story, and then you show up and he dies. Like Hector is the original Makoto archetype. It's the Hector archetype. But yeah, I do agree that that's like stupid. I just also I don't know. I think people take these issues with Engage and blow it out of proportion as if it can't just be applied to every single other game in the series. Absolute failure. After the phenomenal 3 houses, we gotta get 3 houses in. They go the weird and questionable VTuber route, ditching storyline and characters altogether. Balance is completely broken if you decide to do at least a little bit of resource/SP farming. Even a decent combat system couldn't save this snooze fest. I mean, if you go farming for stuff, it's obviously going to break the game balance. Like, that's why most people will discount grinding when giving, like, guides or whatever. Because if the advice is just go grind, then, you know, you can sort of steamroll anything with bigger numbers. But making, like, tier lists or guides or even just, like, advice, like, it's, you know, you can, if you grind up in the arena in Thracia, you stomp over everything. Does that mean Thracia is poorly designed? Or I guess a better example is Sacred Stones. Is the existence of the Tower of Valny, does that make Sacred Stones badly designed? Or Awakening in 3 houses with the practice maps? Like, grinding just exists. You clearly have played other Fire Emblems, at least 3 houses. Grinding exists in 3 houses. I don't know. First time I see a JRPG without New Game Plus. It was a draft, had to be completed quickly to meet the release date. Not worth $60. I hope the mechanic will be developed in the next game. Is 3 Houses the only New Game Plus Fire Emblem? Because I think it is, and I think it's got New Game Plus specifically because of the routes. I know they say they didn't expect people to play the game multiple times, but the routes really encourage it, and I feel like New Game Plus being in that is because of the routes encouraging multiple playthroughs, even if they didn't expect most people to do it. Like, Engage doesn't have New Game Plus, but as post-game, you can play, like, I mean, I wouldn't, but you can play random skirmishes in the post-game. You can still run around your Somniel after you beat the game. Oh, wait, no, I think that's wrong. I think it's just you run around right before the final map. So it doesn't have post-game. But, like, because Awakening does the same thing, doesn't it, right? You run around right before the final map. Yeah, what other, like, is it Sacred Stones? I don't think Creature Campaign is New Game Plus. Shit, New Game Plus just isn't a Fire Emblem thing. I also, like, I don't understand the appeal of New Game Plus. I just beat the game. You really want me to play it again? Like, all over again, but now I'm super powered? Cool if you like that, like, but does it really make a game 0 stars to just not include that hyper-specific feature? The single worst entry in the Fire Emblem series. Worst plot, worst art style, worst main character, worst setting, worst theme. The engage mechanic is genuinely horrible. The weapon triangle was removed for a reason. So they're saying that bringing back the weapon triangle is bad. Damn, can't make it. You can't please anyone. We got tons of fucking 0-star reviews on Three Houses say bring back the weapon triangle. And now Engage is bad because it brought it back. Why the hell do random voices yell at the what the fuck is this complaint? Why the hell do random voices yell the title of the game when you boot it up? Because you booted up the game! The cast says Fire Emblem Engage. Like, that's how titles work. That's how fucking title screens work. Have you never played a game where the title screen says what the title is out loud? What is this fucking nonsense? I feel like even calling it a nitpick feels like it gives it too much credit, because a nitpick is at the very least a complaint. The fact that someone reads the title out loud in the fucking title screen, that's how fucking title screens work. Oh my god. I'm a huge fan of the Fire Emblem series. This was an extremely disappointing entry. Here's the points I dislike the most. The progression system. It holds your hand too much. It's too much trouble to get a character out of their predetermined roles/jobs, so customization is extremely limited unless you're willing to grind for it. What game did you play? This is Fire Emblem Engage, right? The infinite reclass emblem where everyone can go Wyvern or Warrior. You don't even need to build weapon ranks for it? What the fuck game are we talking about? Do you mean you can't turn mages into physical units? Because, like, you can do that. Like, Mage Knight Vander is a build people do. What on earth? Emblem rings are too powerful even on the harder difficulties. I think once you know them, that is a valid criticism. The emblem rings are very, very strong. But I think they're meant to be. Like, the enemies are also, they have big numbers, right? Story is bland. I'm over 30 hours into the game. I couldn't care less about the dialogue. The story is repetitive. Go to a new kingdom, prince or princess to your squad, 2 retainers, fight monsters, get ring. No nuance. Whenever you get a new character, they outclass the ones before, meaning that the only unit that is ever worth training up at the very beginning is your main character. I do think that the Ivy and Pandreo and Kagetsu squad is a problem in terms of just outshining your training projects. It's the FE7 cast design problem, where, like, why am I training up Pent, or why am I training up Urk when I can just have Pent? But I don't think it's, like, so bad. Like, your late game units, like Saphir and Mavier and stuff, like, they're gonna be weaker. I think the bigger issue is the fact that that squad, like Ivy squad and Fogata squad and Tamara squad, like, all show up during the stretch of the game where your deployment slots are cut, so you have to make some cuts, and that sort of, like, makes your training projects fall even farther behind. Everyone else will be replaced by stronger characters. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't disagree, but I also don't agree, if that makes sense. They reused animations between different characters during dialogue cutscenes. Normally this wouldn't bother me, but they literally have one girl set and one guy set animation get reused between literally everyone. Is that true? I didn't notice it, but maybe I just don't notice these things. Character personalities are bland. I didn't find myself connecting with the characters like I have in the previous games. I mean, like, that's valid. It's just, like, also, I don't know. I think people blow this stuff out of the water. But it's valid if you, like, again, I'm not trying to tell anyone you have to like every Fire Emblem game. I don't like every Fire Emblem game. But yeah, yeah. Awakening Fates and Engage are collectively an embarrassment to the FE franchise. Go back to making Fire Emblem games instead of this cringy, post-ironic otaku slop. What does otaku mean? Chat, I have to look up otaku. It's a Japanese subculture consisting of interests like anime, manga, and video. Stop making video games that appeal to people who like video games. I am very smart. Judkrill Chad knows the real Fire Emblem will be when FE4 Remake gets made. New Emblem bad, only FE4 Remake 2. Oh my god. But if we're talking about Awakening anyway, let's move on to the Awakening reviews. Okay, Awakening is a great game, but compared to the other games in the franchise, it doesn't rank all that high. I feel like... So, okay, the gameplay is fun, better and engaging echoes, the story is passable but doesn't compare to Three Houses and Sacred Stones, the characters are fun, but the supports you get with them are mostly mediocre. It's forced when you have child characters. I actually disagree with the child characters criticism, but everything else I agree with this person on. I think the child characters make sense in Awakening. I think it's Fates where they feel like shoehorned in because they were popular. But, 0 out of 10, like, this is ranking all video games ever. I feel like this is more symptomatic of the fact that on the internet, everything needs to be either the best or the worst. So giving Awakening, a game that you say overall is a good game, but you only think it should be played as like a first game, it's not better than the other Fire Emblems, a 0 as its rating? I don't think this is like a case of someone accidentally clicking 0 when they like it, like with the Ash Great Knight thing. This feels like just the genuine, like, I hate it because it's good, but it's not as good as the other thing. It's like how mid means bad now. I fucking hate that, like, extreme on the internet thing. Guy Who Hats, I think this is someone I agreed with another review on, but also felt like it shouldn't be a 0 from their logic. But yeah, they even say it's a good game. So let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say horse. Every character has hooves for feet, and these huge horse legs. Oh, this is the no foot thing. Yeah, they're ugly. They look like they've been kicked by a horse. Bestiality isn't my thing. My next waifu being a donkey doesn't appeal to me. Yo, absolutely fucking wild sentence to just put out there. Yeah, I know that the fucking character models don't have feet. For those who don't know, Awakening was actually developed before the 3DS was complete, so they didn't know what the graphical capabilities would be like, so they cut the feet because they thought the system might not be strong enough to have like fully rendered models, and the feet was like an easy thing they could cut and just have people walk around on like the little nubs. Bestiality isn't my thing. Bro, just say you have a foot fetish. Just say that you can't get it off if the character don't have feet. Like, come on. I don't even want to read the rest of this review. If you're gonna open with that. My first move was identical on my rerun. Oh, are they RNG stuff? Yeah, they're saying they made a side quest, they made an error and tried again, and when they made identical moves, the outcome was different because of RNG being different. Tried a different character, random out. So we're doing the blame the RNG again. I gave them support. They did worse without the support. I'm someone who plays Fire Emblem on easy if the option is available. I'm not a major tactical strategist, but it is a strategy game. I love to plan, even if I'm not very good at it. How can I enjoy a strategy game that's purely down to luck? It's not purely down to luck. You can make good strategies. You can make reliable strategies. I do think there's more luck in Awakening than the average FE game just because of the way Awakening pair-up works. The dialogue, I like text and I don't like the stupid OOT Hollywood crap voiceovers. What is this? Give me text any day, but not with a 1 or 2 line audio. I don't want to hear constant nonsense like, hey you, sure, okay. You know you can turn that off, right? You can turn that off, Fuzz, just in case you're watching. In case you're watching, you know, 3 years later, if you want to go back and play Awakening, you can turn off the voice lines. So, you know, be aware of that. The Honest Walrus. Beautiful music, artwork, and story. The only flaw is a small section of filler. So, yeah, this is definitely a misclick. This was not meant to be a 0. While Fire Emblem has never had the deepest or most fun strategy RPG, it does have solid entries. This, however, is not one of them. Every element of strategy essentially flies out the window after achieving a certain character level, making the game boil down to something more akin to Dynasty Warriors, the board game. Later on in the story itself is subpar, the characters aren't interesting, designed or very likable, maybe 2 or 3 out of many, and the gameplay can be boiled down to grinding up after missions to eliminate all traces of strategy from the game. I mean, much like with the voice line thing, although a bigger deal, you can just not grind, right? Like, I agree that grinding, if you choose to over-level and grind, you'd eliminate strategy, but that's why I don't grind. That's why I don't find it fun. I don't know, it sounds like you made the game less fun for yourself by choosing to do that, if you don't like that. If you do like grinding, like the Power Fantasy, then you should grind, but this person clearly didn't. I've been playing about a week, and below are my impressions. Pros, solid gameplay, good graphics, good OST. Cons, cheesy weak story, poor English voice acting. I found the game to be a great disappointment after I read so many positive reviews. I mean, you said the gameplay, graphics, and OST are good. Is that really a 0 out of 10? Is the story that important to you that a bad story and bad voice acting brings it down to a 0 even when everything else is good? I don't know. It's the engaged story thing again, but for Awakening now. Overall, this game is somewhat lackluster. It's compared to older Fire Emblem games in the series. It doesn't have nearly the same level of quality. Most of the appeal of the game is the fan service, which is not what should be focused on in a strategy game. The early game map design is spot on, but as the late game approaches, get ready to say hello to a bunch of bland, empty grids. The gameplay falls short in every aspect. The constant route the enemy to defeat the commander missions get old real quick. I actually agree with that. I have these same criticisms. Path of Radiance had a great variety of map objectives, where sometimes certain squares need to be defended, or you need to escape with all the units on the map. Well, you're thinking of Thracia, but I get your point. They had depth, which I cannot say for Awakening chapters. Let's not forget about Lunatic and Lunatic Plus. They create fake difficulty by increasing enemy stats to the points where success in the early game is up to RNG. All the strategies lost, you have to rely on the aforementioned RNG and grinding for units to be good. RNG and grinding keeps getting brought up. This is a 2017 review, so it was a common idea at the time, but I think since then, a lot of Awakening super players and experts have demonstrated that Lunatic and Lunatic Plus are not as luck-based as their reputations would have you believe. You don't have to like the difficulties. I personally don't like Lunatic Plus. I do like Lunatic. I think Lunatic Awakening is actually quite fun. It's a difficulty that feels right up my alley. But either way, Lunatic and Lunatic Plus, love them or hate them, they're not as... you can do RNG stuff, but they're not as RNG as you might expect. Ellery, friend of the channel Ellery, check out Ellery if you want to see some high-level Awakening play that sort of demonstrates strategy is a very big part of Lunatic Plus, because that's his preferred difficulty. I've been playing Fire Emblem since the second game in the series, not the second localized one, the second actual game on the Famicom. Okay, so we're immediately doing the fucking, I've got the big gamer dick, I'm gonna brag. I've played the old games, so my opinion is more valid than you. I played the old games too, Buster Brown, so we'll see about that. The destruction of a franchise I hold dear to my heart. And then I see people praising it. Ooh, this is okay. So it's glad to know that the fucking engaged discourse isn't anything new. This is just how Fire Emblem fans are. The destruction of a franchise. I didn't like Awakening. The West has fallen. I've given up on the series. The plot is garbage. It feels like 3 stories glued together, plot holes throughout, as well as feeling less like an SRPG and more of a visual novel. I would get the people who say it's more of an RPG, because there is the narrative of just grind up, right? Numbers is especially with the late game maps being pretty devoid of terrain, so positioning becomes a lot less of an issue, basically after the Valm arc. But a visual novel? Is this, again, just the supports thing? Supports have been in Fire Emblem since the Binding Blade. I get that there's a self-insert, and because the self-insert can romance and you get child characters, there's definitely a bit more of a focus on romance in Awakening and Fates than in other games, and Fates in particular really focuses on supports, because supports feel rewarding because you get the new class options from completing support chains, you know, and you can reclass people based on support chaining. But I think that's good, and I don't think that's a visual novel. Like, visual novel implies that the main appeal is, like, making choices in the dating sim type deal. You can skip the cutscene, the support cutscene, if you don't care about that part. It's like with the Three Houses personification stuff, where it's like, you're taking this optional side thing and just pretending that it's replaced the entire gameplay loop. Characters have a single personality trait. That's the other thing. The fucking... Everyone is so deep in the old Fire Emblems. You talk about how you've played since Gaiden, right? How many characters in Gaiden have more than one personality trait? People will hold up, like, Keaton, Caden, Kellum, like, these one-note characters, and then compare them to, like, Leaf and Seliph and, like, Roy. Roy's not even a very deep character. Who's a deep character from 6? I can't... Percival? Larum and Elfin. But they'll compare these one-note characters from the modern games to the main characters of the older games. And it's like, obviously it's an unfair comparison, but hey, Kellum is not that much more one-note than Gonzalez. Gonzalez is just gentle, giant, dumb, and kind. Kellum is just, he look big, but he actually hard to see. Like, they're both just a single joke, right? Fire Emblem's side characters have always been relegated to just single jokes. Even Three Houses, where the characters, the side characters, secondary and tertiary characters have more depth. Like, Bernadetta is still just the shy girl joke, but then they say, oh, but she had trauma. She had trauma now. And, like, Bernadette is kind of like a low-hanging fruit example. I do think that Three Houses in particular does give a lot of depth to its side characters, which other games in the series don't. But this review was 2016, so you don't have Three Houses as an excuse. What game do you recommend? Genealogy of the Holy War. Okay, so in terms of deep characters in Genealogy, we have, like, Sigurd. He's the main character. Arvis is the main villain. Lewin has depth. Not a main character. He's like a secondary character with depth. That's it? Oh no, Altena. I think the Altena stuff is also really deep. Not Leaf. Leaf is deep in 5, where he's the main character. But in 4, he's fucking just good and boring. And Seliph, who is the main character of the second half of the game, isn't even really all that deep. Like, Lewin stole his depth. Yeah, this whole, like, one notification of the modern series, and then comparing it to the NES and SNES games, it's such a bad faith comparison to be like, let me look at this side character and then say that they're less deep than the main character of a different game. Give me a break with that. I love Fire Emblem. I want to preface this review by saying that I love the series, and I love Fire Emblem 7, just called Fire Emblem here in the States, is my favorite game of all time. Oh no, we're not going to get along, are we? The problem with Awakening lies in the way it drifts so far from what Fire Emblem should be. There we go. There we go. I don't personally like it, so it's not what Fire Emblem should be. How is it not what Fire Emblem should be? Let me read. The drifts from what Fire Emblem should be. Fire Emblem is a series of some of the best strategy games of all time. Yeah, kind of agree. Games with perfect linear design, compelling if not a little dry stories, and a flair for new concepts for other strategy games to follow. And all of it is placed alongside one of the best systems of strategy combat in history, forcing a player to face up a real possibility of losing their soldiers. But Fire Emblem Awakening does not do the series proud. Some of the things I hate for Awakening could have grounded in its divergence from all things Fire Emblem, but I dislike it even more because it tricked me into thinking the whole game would be as good as the first couple of chapters. Fire Emblem Awakening does away with the linear does away with the linear style of Fire Emblem games. Yo, Awakening's open world? Oh, they probably mean that paralogs are optional. First, this was exciting, but I found later on it made the game devoid of challenge. Yeah, they mean that you can do paralogs whatever time you want. The story maps are still linear. Like, the story maps are still linear. I don't think that, like, I mean, I personally prefer paralogs being naturally engaged into the story, or the Fates approach where they scale up. But they're side stories, right? Like, the game is still linear, there's just side content. You can do side missions. The game is still linear. I found it made the game devoid of challenge. Ranking up your team is far too easy when the battles never stop. So they're not even talking about side stories? They're saying, like, skirmishes are what make it non-linear? Like, the story is still linear. The chapters are numbered and they unlock one after another. You can't play chapter 13 before chapter 12. The game doesn't let you. There's no point trying to include weaker characters, no point in trying to form a solid team, no point in playing on permadeath mode anymore, because the game never actually ends. Sure, there's a final level, but it doesn't matter when there's no... So wait, it's not the side missions that they're upset with, it's the fact that after the final level, you can play skirmishes? But those aren't... That's not the point of the game. Do you think any game with a post-game is suddenly just, like, pointless? Like, are the Souls games bad because after you beat them, you can go do side stuff? The game was built for casual. I just disagree with that. Put a nail in the coffin of a series that defined itself as linear. It's still linear. Bro, what are you talking about? It's still linear. I just don't understand this at all. I'm not even like... I don't know. To make it short, the title Fire Emblem Grinding would be more matching. Like Meatupon already said, you grind levels, skills, some boring marriage stuff. It's not rewarding at all. Yeah, I mean, this was the Awakening narrative, right? It was the idea that, like, because the maps are boring, you just grind up and stomp over everything. And, like, if that's the way you approach the game, it's valid. But then if you don't have fun because you stomp everything, you really only have yourself to blame. Yeah, it looks like we've found the common thread with Awakening criticism. I have a feeling that these comments are just going to keep repeating themselves, so let's look at Birthright, where we'll probably get the same criticisms, TBH. Alright, Fates had 3 routes, so I'm going to devote a shorter period to each route, just to sort of make sure we can get all of them. Here we go with Birthright. In my opinion, this is the worst game in the series, even though it was my introduction to Fire Emblem. It's just not as good as the others. The gameplay is good, but the story is the worst in all of Fire Emblem. It's extremely boring, like the cast. Each map is the same objective route. There's no variety in the other games, and you don't have to try once you get Ryoma. Honestly, it's like 5 out of 10, but they kill my favorite character in the series at least, so it's 1 out of 10. If you want to play Fates, just play Conquest. I think 5 out of 10 is probably fair. I agree with basically all the criticisms, even like if you don't use Ryoma. Like, obviously Ryoma is the easiest way to just stomp the game, but like in a no Ryoma run, just whoever you've trained up can Juggernaut as well if you just put them in Ninja or Dark Mage or whatever. Oh dear god, this was stupidly easy, even on the hardest difficulty. Everyone is OP, you can solo the game with Setsuna on Lunatic. I did. If you're new to Fire Emblem, I'd highly suggest going for Echoes or 3 Houses. Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I don't think easy equals bad. I think that, like, my biggest problem with Birthright is the route maps go on forever without presenting challenge. Like, the waves of reinforcements that are unthreatening, I think just drag things out. Luna, my friend Blue Luna, said it best when they said that the problem with Birthright maps is they are over long before they're actually over, and so you spend a lot of time just doing cleanup. And I think that's sort of my biggest problem with Birthright. So far, no, like, reviews that I disagree with, I guess. I bought this game due to good reviews. I feel as if I've been duped. It lacks a stole. The story is generic and bare. The horrible voice acting, copy from Pokemon. I may have enjoyed the game if I was 12, but no, I highly recommend against this game. That's fair. I'm not, like, bothered by it, but I'm also not, like, enthralled by it in the way that SOV enthralls me. If you don't understand Japanese, this is what you were stuck with. Localization for these games used to be pretty good. Oh, we got our first face-petting negative review. Still 2 out of 10, so, you know, you're not so principled as to give it a 0. But yeah, the localization moment. Import if possible. I picked up Birthright because I heard it plays more like Awakening, which is what I want since I don't like the formula of older Fire Emblem games. Fair. The problem is the instant I got to Chapter 6, the chapter where you have to choose between Nor or Hoshido, I wasn't aware going in that if I wanted to play as Nor in Birthright, I would have to pay an additional $20 on top of the $40 game and another $20 if I wanted the hidden third route Revelations. So you're mad that Birthright didn't give you Conquest. But, like, if you wanted Conquest, why didn't you buy Conquest? So, I hear this come up a lot in terms of Fate's criticism. I feel like it's kind of entitled, not gonna lie. The idea that, like, it's actually bad for them to sell the routes separately. If this were a Three Houses situation where the routes have minimal changes from each other, then yeah, they should all be included, right? But Fates, it's a $40 game, whichever copy you get, right? The other routes aren't just like an alt route, it's a completely different game. Like, Birthright has a completely different campaign than Conquest does. Not in the, like, oh, you have slightly different characters like Three Houses does, and maybe a few of the maps are changed. You play all different maps, even though the geography is sometimes shared. Far less shared geography than sort of the consensus, the talking point makes it out to be. But also the shared geography maps play super differently. The one that I like to highlight is all 3 games feature the Tower of Trials type deal. And they all play super differently. Conquest's Tower comes in the early game, Chapter 11, and because of that game's focus on skills, each room feels like it has a distinct gimmick to it, right? Where there's the counter archer's room with the hexing rod in it. There's the miracle, I think it's Miracle Mage's room. There's the lunge chain of ninjas. Each room has its own challenge, and they're teaching you how to approach each of these challenges. The life and death swordmaster pair up, or samurai pair up. And that's the other key thing about Conquests is, I say swordmaster, samurai, they're all unpromoted units because you're facing them in the early game. Meanwhile, in Birthright, it's the late game, it's entirely promoted units, but now instead of each room having an individual gimmick based on skills that teach you sort of mini lessons you'll have to deal with later in the campaign, the overall map has a broad sweeping gimmick, which is that the stats are different than you would expect. Generals with no defense, berserkers with, like, capped strength but 5 HP. It's all funny stats. And, I mean, from a gameplay perspective, I don't think it's super creative, but from a, like, map design perspective, it is one of my favorite maps in Birthright just because it's very funny to have, like, the capped res 0 defense generals, right? The funniest berserker stat spread in the game. I find that shit so fucking funny. And then in Rev, the third of them, the tower map is in the mid-game, and it takes place immediately after Chapter 14, which is a map where you recruit 6 new characters if you count Silas. And a lot of them are training projects. Silas isn't, but Benny, Effie, Arthur, Elise, and Charlotte are all training project units. And because of the sort of room-divided features of the map, it's very easy to use the Rev version of the tower as a training map, where you just sort of, because you can isolate the enemies more easily, There's a mix of unpromoted and promoted enemies, so you can feed the promoted enemies to your training projects without needing to struggle to kill, like how Birthright has all promoted enemies. You don't need to have everyone be trained, because you can have like your main squad kill the unpromoted and set up kills for your training project. So all of the maps feel very different, even though they use the same geography. I think the idea that it's a scam, if anything, I think the Fates trilogy is one of the more generous business practices Nintendo did, because you get a discount if you already own one. You buy them as DLC, right? This person bought Birthright for $40. They can get Conquest, which is a $40 game, for $20. They get a 50% discount. Same with Rev. They can get Rev for $20. It's not sold separate from the other versions, but it has the same amount of content as the other versions. I would assume it's also a $40 value, or considered to be such. If I want to play as Nor, I have to play the game using the formula of the older Fire Emblem, by which I mean no grinding. But that's how it's advertised. That's how Conquest goes. This is why I bought Birthright. Okay, so this person just thinks that if they bought Birthright, they can play Conquest, but get grinding? I think this person doesn't understand, like... And then this feels like their fault, because the marketing is very clear about Birthright is the game where if you want to play like with infinite grinding, it's a more casual, breezy experience. And Conquest is the game that's more difficult. It limits your resources. It's going to have hard skill combinations. Like, that's the other thing, is I know a lot of people really don't like Conquest for being hard. And it's okay if you don't want a hard Fire Emblem, but it's not a ripoff. Like, it pitches itself as the hard game. If you want an easier Fire Emblem, Birthright is right there. It uses the same mechanics. Is blatant money grubbing. It's really not. It's really not. You just don't understand. You just don't understand anything, honestly, Mr. Orange. Orange 91. Everyone should stay away. This game is corporate greed. This is a thing people will pull out. And it's funny to see this as a microcosm in 2016. Because now in the year 2025, almost a decade later, Nintendo is doing the super heinous money grubbing stuff. They're actually pulling it. And yet we see back in the day when they were offering like an actual like consumer-friendly pricing model for these 3 games, the complaint gets rolled out, and that's why people don't take it seriously now that Nintendo is doing stuff like the $20 DLC for Donkey Kong, or the $100 Virtual Boy, like that sort of stuff, right? I don't know. I feel like there's probably a point to be made, but I'm too exhausted from reading brain-dead reviews to make it. Let's move on to Conquest. Super easy as all modern Fire Emblem games have been. Did we actually move on to Conquest? Yeah, this is a Conquest review. Super easy. We got a fucking FE12 gamer here. Gotta swing his big gamer dick around, tell us that Conquest is so easy. Not an issue, but it's worth noting. Okay, bro, okay. The story was painfully boring. I didn't care much about any of the characters except for Corrin and Azura. Some of the maps are fun, others not so much. I wish they did without the incest. Yeah, me too. I get romance is heavily emphasized in the 3DS game, but letting Corrin marry and have kids with their supposed blood relatives is weird and the primary reason for the low rating. That's fair. With blood relatives, I don't care if they're technically not related, because that ruins the whole point of the story. What's the tension if Corrin isn't actually related to the... So they're commenting on the Birthright romances, and they said it's super easy. I think this person might have misfiled their review under Conquest and meant it to be Birthright or Rev. Which I guess makes the super easy comment make sense. I'm giving this game a 4 because I have one huge issue with the gameplay. There's one thing in games that makes it most frustrating I have ever played. It's the BS RNG. I don't know how the hell Nintendo did it, but the RNG in this game is different from every other Yo, this is the RNG crash out I've been waiting for. I need to start over. I need to give it a voice. I'm giving this game a 4 because of one huge issue with the gameplay. This one thing makes this game amongst the most frustrating games I have ever played in recent memory. It's the BS RNG! I don't know what the hell Nintendo did, but the RNG in this game is very different from every other Fire Emblem game made in the past 10 years. Got a 98% chance to hit? Guess what? You miss! Oh, guess what? You miss again! And again! And again! The enemy has a 3% chance to crit you and your unit and instantly kill it. He crits. And not once but twice, and 3 more turns in a row. The RNG in this game is so shit that it defies logic. Rare RNG mishaps are common in this game. Because of this, you will find yourself restarting not only to terrible level up RNG on your units, but also to terrible RNG in combat as well. Oh yeah, and the enemy units will frequently have completely broken weapons that were designed to be very strong, but not hit very much. Oh, but guess what? The broken-ass RNG makes it so these weapons and spells connect every single time, without fail. Oh yeah. This is on normal difficulty. This game is going to make you punch a small child. Otherwise, the story is good if you can manage not to sell this game back to GameStop before you beat it. I don't know if there's anything I can add. This is fucking cinema. This game will make you want to punch a small child. At least I'm glad to hear that the story of Fire Emblem Fates Conquest is good. Thank you, Noshar, for standing up for Medea. Like most, I was fairly excited for this game to come out. I've played a few Fire Emblem games over the years, and I really enjoyed Awakening. I've always enjoyed RPGs of all kinds for the sweeping stories, and now I'm actually a professional fiction writer. So I was doubly thrilled to hear that a well-known Japanese author was penning the tale. Fast forward to finally playing the game. I start the first chapter, and within the first few lines of dialogue, I can tell something's off. I've now had the game for weeks, and I've only been able to get through Chapter 9 because the characters are generally over-the-top anime cliches. You've got Sundare's, Yandere's, cheerful Mo little sister, or shy Mo little sister. You've got respectful ninja, dutiful butler, stuffy older brother, or noble older brother, depending on your path. The dialogue is maudlin and on the nose. There's no subtlety. Having read months earlier an article that went in depth on how this great author had gone to script this game, I could not understand how this was the end product. Was I missing something here? Now, obviously, I went online and figured out what happened with the localization. I don't agree with censorship, but that's not what this is about. I'm upset at all the other random pointless changes to characters, in some cases completely altering their personalities. I'm upset about the poor quality of the dialogue, and Corin, you are terribly annoying. I believe that video games can be art. What? I get, like, the story of Fates is bad, but I'm sorry, your, like, imagined censorship enemy is not why Conquest has a bad story. It's poorly written. The, like, acclaimed author or whatever, I think there was, like, he was a consulting or whatever, and, like, I remember that he there was something about how he's, like, not, the stories he writes, like, don't align with the story they were trying to make or something. I don't know. This whole fucking censorship thing, I'm just exhausted at these conversations. Chinese communist censorship all over again. I believe this game is a great addition to the franchise, but the game suffers from more censorship. I recommend getting a patched English version of the game. Y'all are so mad about the removal of the face pitting minigame. Just wait till 3 Houses come out. These same people are going to get mad about the Tea Party. The game itself, it suffers from... How are all the negative reviews? I expected some people complaining about it being hard. It's all just censorship, 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 censorship. We've got, the story is basic. Half your allies are shit. Your main character chooses to side with this bad kingdom instead of his family. The list goes on. You chose! You can side with the family in Birthright. Worst of all, Conquest is supposed to be challenging. Chapters 1 through 9 were just that. Difficult, made hard enough to test you considerably, but not unreasonable. However, Chapter 10 was a difficulty spike the likes of which I'd never seen before. It went from difficult to psychopathically sadistic. I picked hard, and 1 through 9 were just that hard, but Chapter 10 took it up to lunatic. I played the entire Advance Wars series and 3 Fire Emblem games. I expect better than this. 1 out of 10. I feel betrayed as a player, a customer, and a fan of the series. Yo, he crashed out so hard on one of the best maps of the franchise. Fucking, I get it. Chapter 10's hard. Like, Chapter 10 is when I lowered the difficulty from hard to normal on my first playthrough. But crashing out over the fact that the game that markets itself as hard, like, Fire Emblem in general is a series that struggles to maintain difficulty, especially going into the mid and late game. This is one of the harder games in the franchise, and it markets itself on that. Like, it's meant to be a difficult product. I get it. I get, like, I don't know, turn it down to normal if you want, or just, like, keep at it. Or just, like, play a different Fire Emblem game. If hard games aren't for you, like, I don't know, this is supposed to be the hard game. It's hard. There was a fucking viral YouTube video about how Conquest Lunatic is bad design because it's hard, is what it came down to, because it's hard. And I normally try not to, like, put other YouTubers on blast, but this was, like, a hardcore Trump supporter. So I don't care. But, like, I think it's, like, obviously there's the reductive, like, just get good type deal that people will respond to, like, complaints of difficulty on. But if the game markets itself on being super difficult, it's not, like, unfair difficulty either. Like, there's more unfair difficulty in the easier entries, stuff like Awakening, and, well, Awakening's not an easier entry. Stuff like the Game Boy Advance games with ambush spawns, right? Like 6 and 5 with ambush spawns. Or 4 with, like, surprise, Aaron's gonna seize the castle now, like, that sort of bullshit. Fire Emblem can do unfair difficulty, but Conquest doesn't. Like, you see exactly what you're up against, and you just have to utilize your tools to counter it, and you get a ton of tools. You get a ton of powerful tools. 10 is where Camilla shows up. I don't know. If you don't like hard game, Rev and Birthright both exist as well. Like, they use the same mechanics, right? So if you, it's not even like, oh, I wanted to play with the Fates mechanics, but I guess Conquest is too hard. Like, you have other options. Rev and Birthright are right there. Great story, great characters, great gameplay. It improves everything that was wrong with Awakening. It's really fun and a must-play. Definitely a must-have for the 3DS. So this person made a typo, but also great story, Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. You love to see it. The gameplay is great. The more censorship. I'm just gonna scroll past all these censorship ones. I've made the same point over and over. I can't say good conscience anything about this game or the other two routes, because there's nothing good to say. Terrible writing. Characters range from bland to terrible. They're unlikable. The debuffs that replace rep and durability are ridiculous. The shoehorned waifu mechanic, it's ridiculously bad. Excuse for children to be playable. Fan service is cranked up. You go to the bathhouse. Main character is a self-insert Mary Sue. Fates failed to capture any... There we go. Failed to capture anything that makes FE FE. I'm a longtime Fire Emblem fan, and I can honestly say this is not Fire Emblem. This is not what Fire Emblem is about. It doesn't feel like a Fire Emblem game. It felt like an anime knockoff failing to be so. Anyone thinking about getting this game, it's not worth looking at. We've got a 2-for-1 here. It's not real Fire Emblem, and it's bad because it's anime. Fucking every single goddamn Fire Emblem is anime. It annoys me so much when people leverage anime to just mean bad. There's obviously the subtle xenophobia of, like, anime equals bad because Japan. But it's also just lazy shorthand. If you don't like the Fates' story, which I don't like Fates' story, rather than say I don't like it because it's anime, explain what you don't like about it. I don't like it because it bends over backwards to remove agency from Corrin, because it presents itself as examining an interesting moral dilemma, but then undercuts every single one of those moral dilemmas. It's overly verbose, it wastes so much time just saying the same thing over and over again, and because it feels cartoonishly silly to continue to insist there are no casualties on the enemy side, simply to maintain the moral purity of the character Corrin when this is supposedly the evil side. I think those are all issues I have with the story. I don't have the issue with it being too anime. Fire Emblem Fates is a great game. Unfortunately, most people in the West will never get to play it. Oh, I said I wouldn't read these censorships, but this one looks too good. They'll get the version butchered by Jack Thompson's disciples at the Nintendo of America Treehouse. Jack Thompson works for Nintendo of America. This 2016, was Jack Thompson even, like, a relevant punching bag at this time? These people somehow got it into their heads they are the moral arbitrators of the universe, and instead of merely translating the game, they chose to remove content such acts of censorship and fascism. Such acts of censorship and fascism must not be allowed to go unchallenged. Captain Privilege! You really named yourself Captain Privilege when you're writing this shit? Oh my god. I hope this is a fucking parody. I want to live in a world where Captain Privilege! Captain Privilege! Captain Privilege, the decider of fascism! Captain Privilege knows what fascism is! Captain Privilege sounds like a fucking supervillain for Snowflake in Safe Space. Do you remember Snowflake in Safe Space? The fucking woke superheroes from Marvel? Captain Privilege sounds like he would be their fucking supervillain. Captain Privilege! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! He named himself Captain Privilege!
Tomorrow.
Okay, it's the next day. I think I am now fully recovered and can read the bad reviews for... Well, the only games we've got left are Rev and Echoes. So we'll start with Rev, just because that'll get my blood boiling. It's much like Engage, another one that people have just decided is the punching bag. And it does have prominent problems, as does every Fire Emblem game, but... and it's valid if, like, the prominent problems in Rev bother you, but the prominent problems in other Fire Emblem games don't. But it is just kind of... I guess annoying how it's framed as a matter of fact that, well, I don't like this, so it's bad, around this game in particular. I don't know how much people here were paid to pretend the final part of a 60% complete game was good, but I wasn't paid anything. I didn't pay for this game, and I still felt ripped off. Yo, Trivium Lover 69, you can't fucking say that. You can't say that. The Nintendo Ninjas will throw you in jail. You are going to be Doug Bowser, or not Doug Bowser, what is Gary Bowser? He's the slave for life. You can't ever admit to piracy on the internet. I've never pirated a single Nintendo game. I own all of my Nintendo games officially, and I only play on official hardware. Unmodified official hardware as well, and I don't use glitches because those are also illegal. But yeah, the whole fucking... I mean, the 60% complete game thing is another, it's sort of the framing of Fates. They sold 3 different versions. I talked about this earlier, I think, where people got mad and they sort of framed it as like the Pokemon scam where they sell the same game twice, but Birthright, Rev, and Conquest are all very different from each other, as you can see from the fact that, like, there's people who love Conquest and hate the other 2 games. There's people who love Rev but hate the other 2 games. There's people who love Birthright but hate the other 2 games. There's people who like any 2 combinations but hate the 3rd one. Like, I personally like Rev and Conquest, but I don't like Birthright. I know there's people who like Birthright and Conquest but don't like Rev. And I've even spoken to the odd egg that likes Rev and Birthright but not Conquest, which I guess is just a difficulty thing. Because, like, Conquest's approach to difficulty is a lot more intense, and if you're not looking for, like, a super hard time, even on normal, like, normal Conquest, obviously it's not going to get you sweating bullets like a pro gamer, but it is still, compared to other games, you know, it can be hard at times, and that's not going to appeal to everyone, and that's fine. But yeah, the 60% thing, like, and the paid reviews, okay. Be careful of the Nintendo ninjas. Don't post about doing piracy online publicly. That's the PSA, kids. That's the PSA. Fails as a game. Fails as a story. It's probably the weakest Fire Emblem experience in the franchise. The gameplay, cast, and story are all pathetic. I have no idea what the critics saw in the game. Then again, the user reviews... Oh, the user reviews are usually more accurate. This is the fucking culture war bullshit that comes up anytime there's a game or movie. Like, Rotten Tomatoes has, like, the tomato meter and the audience meter, and people will be like, yo, 20% to critics, but 90% audience. Like, yeah, this is the thing that happens sometimes. Sometimes general audiences vibe with a game or movie more than critics. And there's a number of reasons for this, and oftentimes it's moralized either one way or the other, like, see, the critics are out of touch, they're stupid, we hate them. Or then you get the other of like, well, general audiences just eat Marvel slop up, and the critics actually know true cinema. But, like, the truth is, oftentimes when there's a disconnect, it can come from something that is designed for mass appeal, might not appeal as much to the super entrenched. Like, reviewers play a ton of games. They have to for their job, right? Whereas if you buy like 3 games a year just because video games are fucking expensive, a game that you can sink a bunch of time into, and maybe it's not doing the most original stuff in the world, but it's good enough to entertain you, that's gonna seem good to you. Whereas, like, if it's not doing anything original and it takes forever, a critic who has to, like, pump out a review a week or even more, just like boom, 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 oftentimes it's just not gonna feel as good to them, and that's fine. Like, different people are looking for different things, you know, right? This is, again, not really a Rev exclusive thing. Give me the fucking Rev exclusive thing. Someone talk about Scarlet, please. Revelation isn't just the worst of the Fates trilogy, it's the worst Fire Emblem period. The story is a nonsensical journey strung together by one shocking revelation after another. I agree with that, it's stupid. Worse still, this is the golden route. Birthright and Conquest are effectively invalidated. Yeah, I also... Shadow Shozu, even though you gave my favorite Fire Emblem game a 2 out of 10, so far you're good in my book. Like, I hate the golden route shit. I just don't like Rev for its story. I like it for its gameplay, but the idea of, like, selling this game based on this super important choice and then giving the 3rd golden route choice is just so eye-rollingly obnoxious to me. Unit balance is a mess, ranging finally overpowered like Romance Ander, level 10 unpromoted units barely survive, giving you little room for experimentation. That is a common complaint, and I do think Rev's cast has that sort of, like, FE6 style, why the fuck did you, like, have Nyx and Shura join on the same map type deal, right? Like, there are your Sophia and Wendy archetypes in Fire Emblem Fates Revelation, but at the same time, that's a thing that's present in a lot of Fire Emblem games, and I think the unbalanced nature of the cast is exaggerated quite a bit. There's this sort of idea that, like, oh, well, you run all 8 royals and nothing else, but, you know, you've seen some of the royals, like, Hanoka's mid. She's not bad, but she's mid. She's not, like, good. Or she's not, like, phenomenal high tier or whatever. And then you got, like, Elise, who's actually kind of trash garbage. Sakura's sort of like, you can train her or you cannot train her. A lot of the early training projects, like the Hoshidens, or the furries, like Keaton and Caden, have very good prospects in the long term. And then you get the strong pre-promotes like Sander and Ryoma. And it does, I think the biggest issue is deployment slots. Like, it does feel bad to just be like, well, I trained up Hana, but I don't really have slots for her because Ryoma and Xander are just, like, better. And then, like, the retainers that join in Ryoma and Xander's map, Odin and Niles are very sad. Although I will maintain that Laszlo and Perry are not as bad as people make them out to be. It's just they join alongside Leo and Xander and Ryoma functionally, so it's kind of like, it's a very bad comparison point for them, right? It's hard to stand out against those two. I'm looking forward to the Laszlo and Perry unit reviews, to be honest. Unit balance is a mess. You can't really experiment. The gimmicky level design and inconsistent enemy strength makes repeated playthroughs a chore. I like the gimmicks for the most part. I think snow shoveling sucks. I think Pick a Dick in Chapter 7 sucks. And I don't like the elevator map where on the map where you fight Ryoma's dad. But other than that, I do actually really like a lot of the gimmicks. Like teleporting bridges is cool. I like red floor, blue floor. I know a lot of people don't like it. But I think it's cool to sort of like bait people and promote them. It doesn't affect your experience gain, so you can use it to like train up late game units or train up like out of class stuff just to get like a skill dipping or whatever. I don't know, I think it's a cool map. I like a lot of the gimmicks, and I think they are typically additive or easily ignorable. Like a lot of the elevator and bridge ones, I like them, and then if I don't feel like dealing with them, I just run Flyer Emblem. So it's fine if you don't, just, yeah. Really weird maps, tedious gimmicks, awful unit balance, the caster is significantly under-leveled, you need to grind to keep them up to speed, trash story, it's the weakest of Faith games, probably the worst overall. The music was phoned in? The music was phoned in! I'm sorry. First off, it's the same fucking music as the rest of Fates, but also Fates has one of the best soundtracks, like its OST is top tier, and anyone who says otherwise can smell my farts. Revelation is without a doubt the worst path in Fire Emblem Fates. It's a solid contender for the worst Fire Emblem game ever. Most important feature of the series, i.e. gameplay, is terribly lacking. The maps are weak in terms of strategy, but a hassle to complete. Not difficult because of difficulty, but because they are lengthy on purpose. I stopped at chapter 12 out of 27. Oh boy, don't let the YouTube comment section know that you haven't completed the game before your review. I do think the early part of Rev is like a slog. Like I said, the Pick a Dick in Chapter 7, the Snow Shovel is bad. And Fuga's map, I really, really like Fuga's map, but on a first pass, like on a first playthrough, that feels like hell. And the biggest issue I think that Fuga's map has that I still even don't like, is it is super long for an early game map. So I think this person's criticisms are on point, even if I disagree with them. Not happy to admit, I loathe this game. I adore Fire Emblem. My favorite is the Blazing Sword. Oh, we got an FE4 fan in the house, which is why I despise this game. Oh, maybe username Ray, are we the evil opposites? Is this Kingdom Hearts and you're my nobody? Or I'm your nobody? I think that's the Kingdom Hearts lore. I didn't play enough of the game to find out. Every Fire Emblem adds something new and meaningful to the gameplay. The refinements have zero downside. Sacred Stone added the multiple classes. But what does Fates offer? Emphasis on player choice. It sounds cool, but the execution falls flat, selling hardly different endings for 3/4 the price of the game. I mean, again, I've already tackled the game stuff, the game price stuff multiple times. Big mistake on all fronts, not to mention the different versions offer nothing but different story gameplay improvement. No gameplay improvements anywhere. Speaking of gameplay, nothing has changed since Awakening. Oh, boy. This is a 2016 review. Okay, so I can cut you a little bit of slack, but like, they both have pair up, but pair up could not be more different. The support reclass system as well. Oh, they're saying it's copy-paste anime characters, cash grab. This feels like a new game bad situation where, because it's all the models and textures are ripped from Awakening. Was this before Footgate? Was this before people realized that if you had a foot fetish, Awakening wanted you to fucking die? Because, like, the models are absolutely not ripped from Awakening because they have feet. Corrin's feet are all over the fucking place. This is new game bad. This is new game bad. Also, like, I'm sorry, saying that Fates did not develop gameplay in any meaningful sense. The best support system in Fire Emblem, pair-up being almost universally lauded as one of the coolest mechanics and one of the deepest mechanics that Fire Emblem has had. The new weapon triangle, a ton of new classes? Like, what are you talking about? Fire Emblem Fates Revelations is an attempt to fill in the plot holes that are left by the other two routes, thus completely undermining the idea that 3 games are separate and complete. We got more price discourse. However, it's immediately undermined by the fact that both families turn on Corrin, the main character, refusing to fight. Yeah, the story is stupid. The main purpose of the story is to fill in plot holes filled by the other two routes. Chapter 5's attack was done by a purple figure, which you never encounter again, or which you encounter again over the course of Revelations. The writing is definitely weakened because of the inconsistencies. They clear Corrin the enemy, and then they side with him. Yeah, I mean, the story's bad. Is this just going to be, like, story bad? We jump off this death to traitor. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying about the story. I think the story sucks ass. During the story, there are 3 character deaths, which could have been avoided. They literally heal one of them while they are leaving the other 4 to die. Wait, who are the 3 character deaths? Izuma dies, giving the prophecy. Scarlet dies. Gunter doesn't die. People say Gunter dies, but Gunter lives. They heal him. So that's the 4th person. Who's the 3rd person that dies? Is it, are they talking about, like, Aret or, the Hoshiden dad? Sumeragi? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The story sucks. Another major problem is the excessive use of dragon. Oh, I think this one... I think they meant to say dragon veins, but it just ended. Either that or the screen cap I got, I cropped it wrong. Either way, there's no voice acting. Yeah, I mean, it's on the 3DS. Although, in fairness, like, Echoes had voice acting, so maybe that's me being the unfair critic now. Yeah, I mean, it seems like most of the stuff is just, like, story bad, and we're at the end. I'm actually at the end. I'm surprised. There's only, like, 7 negative reviews here? Maybe people just didn't review Rev because they don't play it. That's the thing, is a lot of the Rev hate is just like, oh, well, we've decided it's the bad one, so... Alright, let's move on to Echoes. Okay, let's take a look. Also, AC is on now. Easily my least favorite 3DS Fire Emblem. Playing through this game was miserable, mediocre story, boring gameplay. I had a great time playing Fates and Awakening, was hoping Shadows of Valentia. Before, I was met with the terrible omen of things to come. 1 inventory slot. I guess I get it. It takes some adjusting to. I think it's cool. But as the game progresses, things get worse. Boring boat maps, canter spawning monsters. Later on, there's teleporting wishes and desert maps without anyone on a Pegasus to crawl. Swamp maps force you to walk through them, the damaging swamps, just to complete the map. There's no other way to beat them. I'm laughing because they're just describing the game, and yeah, like that, all that sucks. I ended up quitting right as I reached Act 5 because despite the fact I was so close to finishing, I couldn't handle it anymore. Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia is a miserable experience, and I could only ever recommend it to super fans of the Fire Emblem series. I basically agree. I'm an SOV hater though. Sorry, y'all. I did like it for the first few chapters, but eventually you control 2 armies at the same time, and from that point on is very annoying with map designs. I really do not like it, so I barely finished. The characters and animations are nice. Yeah, I mean, like, these are the most limp complaints. Can we get someone, like, super angry so I can, like, thumbnail clickbait? Because everyone, I mean, I'm agreeing with them, but also they're being super civil. The one time I want internet toxicity, right? Which makes this game very attractive. Characters have average voiceovers, but they fit the bill for each character. These things attracted me to the game. And for a while, I thought the game was incredible. I played it under the facade until I hit the final level. That's where I snapped and saw the true flaws of the game. this is our Joker origin story, I guess. Shadows of Valentia continues on the Fates tradition of removing staple features. They removed the weapon. Oh, we got weapon triangle discourse back. Further degrading any sort of strategy you can put into the game. They removed the weapon triangle. Not only, but removing that and keeping no durability from Fates, and they give one item only to carry limit, as opposed to the 5 items they could use to carry. Being restricted like this makes gameplay extremely frustrating, and in some cases, you have to grind to get past certain parts of the game. I mean, okay, so they remove the weapon triangle, and they remove the multiple inventory slots, but you've got combat arts. You've got spells, like, you have tactical options. It's not like these things are removed. I mean, removed is, you know, obviously, it's how it was in Gaiden, but going off of, like, going from Fates to SOV, I can see it seeming like a removal, so I'm going off of that logic. It's not like nothing replaced these, right? It's not like, oh, now you have no tactical options. Like, they gave... First off, choosing what item everyone gets is a pretty big choice, because it hugely affects their kit in terms of what combat arts they have access to, if they have the ability to heal, or if you need to rely on a healer, stuff like that. But the spell lists and combat arts, like, they give you tactical options. I don't think SOV is the most tactically deep game out there, mostly just because I don't like the map design, but it's not like they just removed this and there was nothing. I never played Gaiden. After attempting to play the original on... You can't say emulator. Yo, the ninjas are gonna get you. The ninjas are gonna get you. You can't say that online. I never bothered. From what I've seen, they reused the old Gaiden maps, which makes sense because it's remake. However, they're almost identical. No changes to maps forever. Doesn't complement any of the new systems they've inputted in this installment. The story is strange. Pretty generic when you get past the confusing bits. You'll find yourself scratching your head for the most part. The game is not good. It's below average in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm finding it hard to get in my britches to defend SOV because I'm not I'm kind of an SOV hater. But I gave it a try. I gave the defense a try, you know. There are so many differences between what Echoes provides and what other Fire Emblem games have for the past decade. These are differences I'm displeased with. The game feels oversimplified even compared to Fire Emblem Heroes. There's no weapon... Why do people love the weapon triangle so much? There's not even any playable axe units. Yeah, there's no playable axe units. That's why there's no weapon triangle, y'all. Axe users are exclusively enemy only, and they are the same because of there's lack of class diversity. Class diversity is horrible. Your lance users are cavaliers, knights, and falcon knights. All these characters will use lances and only lances, and they will, like all other classes, promote in a straight line instead of any choices. So I've had people bring this up in terms of, like, a lot of ROM hacks don't have the branching promos. And I understand, like, obviously if you're a huge fan of the branching promos, it can feel bad to not have it. But I think the classes feel more distinct when, instead of branching promos, it's just a specific promotion path. You can also make it then so that specific characters promote into just a specific thing. Lords of the Seas does this with its thieves, where Sierra promotes to Wolf Knight, but the other guy promotes into Assassin, and so that sort of differentiates them from each other. I think the straight line promotion is fine, to be honest. Branchings is in Sacred Stones, and it's in some of the 3DS games, and then they, I mean, Three Houses is kind of its own thing, but they brought the branching back in Engage to an extent. And, like, it's cool when they have it, but I also don't think it's a necessary feature. I think just specific promotions being linear is fine. You know, Pokemon evolve in a linear fashion. You only have one bow class line, you only get one sword class line, and it can promote backwards into villager and then respec into the other classes. The mages are better, they all heal and move the same, but some of them can do something different, like warp instead of rescue. You can't buy anything, you can only upgrade what few items there are in the game. That's okay, because all units could only carry one item anyway. In past Fire Emblem games, you could have something like a Great Knight who has heavy armored cavalry unit. They can use axes, swords, and lances, and several variations. Okay, this is going on for a long time. I'm not going to read all of that. I kind of don't feel like reading all of that. The dungeons are terrible. Later on in the game, you main character fight 1v1, and it's RNG if you win or not. And that's the end of the dungeon, so if you lose, you have to replay 1 hour of gameplay. So shit, terrible game design. This is the rage I was looking for, and this feels fitting to end on. Complaining about having to replay an hour of gameplay when there's a save point right outside the Trial of Alm. I don't think the Trial of Alm is any great shakes. It's the same issues I have with Ike dueling the Black Knight and Ike dueling the Black Knight again in the sequel. But I don't know. Replay a whole hour of gameplay. I don't know. Maybe my heart's just not in it. Maybe I read too many negative reviews. Leave your negative review of this video down below in the comments. Give me a 0 out of 10. You know who deserves good reviews, though? My patrons. So thank you to Glupshido, Electric Giga, Erica Ford, YLO1, George Grenville the 7th PM, Jamie Collins, Arvis, Crispy Matthews, Floahay, I Like Rattata, Amy Hazel, Faulty Videos, Lyra, Kyle Madison, Derek Williams, Anna Cabana, The Daily Foogle, Faye, Magic Bite, Thoughtful Insanity, Robin Goodfeller, Diesight, Chris, Root Beer Pants, Queen Eliza, Control Daegis, Roman Kormancic, Knick Knack Hammersmack, Carrier Has Left, Angel Napcaceres, Cabbage, SUP, Caius Cole, Bree, Punch Fighter Champion, Eggman, Maxine the Vampire Queen, Dragonback Lancer, Sardonic Muse, Lepton, Key the Iron Idol, Calamity Callie, Anom Wanderer, Clever Username of Lies, Jackson McMahon, Saren Gurlixy, Rezi, Andu, Len, Gameboo, Carosa, Fyrant, Your Doctor, Frozen Helm, Patwit, Pillow Willow, Girl Boss, Lizard Bongwater, Christopher Bueno, Marin McQueen, Jaden Reflect, Dylan Solis, Forever Lucas, Some Trades, Guiji555, Smaz Ruby, Psychrom, Robin D, Alen B, Hound Dogs, They Thumb, Clan, Reflect, and an extra special 10 out of 10 review to my Jagans, Shinthia, Adele, Alexander Roper, Siggy, and Serial Bowl. Your support is what makes these videos possible, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if anyone watching wants to join the names on screen, as well as get early access to videos and be able to vote, as well as some other benefits and whatnot, there is a link to my Patreon below, but please only donate if you can comfortably afford to do so. I don't want anyone going broke over Fire Emblem. That being said, you can always like, subscribe, comment for the algorithm. That is a free way to support me. But regardless of what you choose to do, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, gamers.